I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
All right, Andy, hang on. Here we go. Buckle your seatbelt, Andy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Here we go.
I don't know. I didn't think we were going to get this one started.
No, I know.
Yeah,
it's
no,
taking
we're
forever.
going now, though.
Like herding cats some days, Bobby.
It is herding cats. And speaking of cats,
Bobby.
Whatever.
Richie, I don't even know what that's about. So speaking of cats, Dudley, how good to have you back.
Well, thanks.
Oh, yeah, he's been gone. Cuz has been in your seat.
What do you say? Why does that mean you? Oh, you mean Dudley's such a cool cat? I get it. Yeah.
Liable to find Dudley sitting in there with a cat.
I am a cat person.
Okay.
I'm,
wow.
I'm not afraid to admit that I'm a cat person.
Yeah,
Wow, that's deep.
He's he's comfortable with it, I guess.
Yeah, I am.
Good for him.
But we have some cats out in the warehouse, and from time to
I
time,
wouldn't trade anything. They're unbelievable.
They're
at
great
what they
cats.
Mousers.
Yes, sir.
Well, one of them comes in my office and takes a nap about once a day.
That's when you go
That's
out there
awesome.
and get him and bring him in there.
That's
And what-
Pedro.
Yeah, the door gets shut. What's going on there?
Well, I just don't want him to exit. You know, there's like 8 dogs in our office,
Yep.
and I don't want little Pedro to get hurt.
I guarantee you, we don't own a cat
I
here.
never thought about this.
Yeah, they can't hold itself with any dog we've got. I guarantee you.
yeah.
Scratch his eyes out.
You know what a cat lover is called?
Oh my gosh.
What is a cat lover called?
Alorophile.
A lorophile.
A lorophile.
There's Dudley.
That is
right
you.
there.
Meow, meow.
All right, I would like to change the subject if we could. We have
Should we digress?
Yeah, we should definitely digress.
we have invited a guy to be on here. He's from Kentucky, and he is an extension agent for the Ag and Natural Resources with Meade County, Kentucky.
Wow.
And not only that, this guy he's not only a hunter, he's a turkey hunter.
Uh-oh.
Pretty
I bet you're going to
serious
ask him
turkey
for a turkey.
Means he's
hunt,
the best
aren't
of the best.
And he loves to train retrievers. So
Oh, wow.
I think he's
Wow.
going to fit right in. His name is Andy Mills.
All right. In the house.
Hey.
He's definitely got the pedigree.
Welcome, Andy.
Cats, hey, you're right up my alley, but it's wildcats here in Kentucky.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
What are you, long-tailed cat?
He got us.
No, Lanny, that's a reference to the University of Kentucky.
Oh,
that
yeah,
mascot.
my bad, my
Yeah, you got Lanny all excited there for a second. There. He thinks you meant long-tailed cats, of that like Black Panthers, but we know better.
No, not Black Panthers. How many times do we have to go through this?
Andy, we have invited you here. This thing has just gotten totally down in the ditches, but we have invited you here. We want to learn about alfalfa.
Yes, sir.
And we've got
We do.
a seed business. We've been selling biologic with a bunch of different seed blends for a long time. We get a lot of calls about alfalfa. And we've actually got alfalfa in a
Yeah,
in a
we got
couple of
an additive. A
it
small
is.
bag that people can.
But it's one thing, there's a lot of mystery around it. And so could you just kind of start and explain, we're going to have a lot of questions, but could you kind of start us off talking a little about alfalfa and how it could affect wildlife?
Yeah, and then while you're doing this opening dialogue too about the state of it across the country, from say whatever Minnesota to
Yeah, because it's not
whatever
used
the
as
Panhandle
much.
of Florida, even I know because there's a big diversity. But I'd love to learn more about that right off the front end.
Yeah. All right, Andy. We're going to turn the show over to you.
In the ag world, we call it the Queen of Forages, but it would translate that into the wildlife world as well. Not many people grow it for wildlife, and the main reason is it's expensive and it takes a lot of management. It's a good crop because it's a perennial, long-lasting perennial if it's managed right. Lots of tonnage, lots of high-yielding dry matter, high-quality food source for a lot of different wildlife. Back to the same thing, it takes management. And you know, most of us, I'm a food plot guy. We want to put a food plot out in the spring, a food plot out in the fall, and we don't want to do a whole lot of managing in between. But alfalfa takes it. first of all, it takes a deep, well-drained soil, which kind of limits a lot of our areas where people are wanting to put food plots. And then it takes a higher pH soil. It doesn't like an acid soil. It likes about a 6.5 to 7 range. And that hurts a lot of food plot areas because a lot of them are in between woods and cleared out wooded areas. And a lot of our soils are a little more on the acid side. So it takes a lot of liming to get the pH upright, and alfalfa will not grow, will not survive in a low pH soil. So that's our biggest limiting factor for people putting out alfalfa as a food plot. It's a real heavy user of phosphorus and potash. Takes a lot of fertilizer, zero nitrogen because it's nitrogen fixing. It's a legume, but it uses a lot of phosphorus and potash, and it's got to have that potash for the reserves it needs to come back out the following spring. So if you limit the potash, then you will limit your stand, and eventually it'll fade out. That's why a lot of people will put alfalfa out. I hear them around here. They'll put alfalfa out for a food plot, and they'll say, "Oh, it only lasts 3 years." Well, most of the time, that's one of the big reasons is not keeping the fertility up on that. And then variety selections, there's all kinds of varieties. I mean, hundreds of varieties. And a lot of those varieties have disease packages. And for whatever area you live in the state, any state, look at the diseases, the disease pressure you may have, especially root diseases. Select a variety that's going to be resistant or highly resistant to those diseases. You'll come out way ahead picking an improved variety, a tested variety. If you're going to a farm store and just picking out a variety of alfalfa, that would be the way to do it. And I'd suggest you guys, when you're doing any kind of mixes in your biologic or whatever, make sure it's a variety that will survive in whatever area you're kind of targeting. There are different winter hardiness on these. There are fall dormancy numbers on these different alfalfas. And for guys that are mainly putting them out for deer, you want them to survive, but you want them to stay as dormant or as non-dormant as long as possible. So if you get a fall dormancy of a low number, then come October, as soon as we get a little bit of cold spell, then all of a sudden your alfalfa is going to just start dying off, not really dying off, but going dormant. And there's not a good food source there for your deer. So that's one thing to consider as well. But after that, it's like putting out any other kind of forage. Make sure you get a good seed bed and take care of your weeds, take care of your insects. Diseases, that's another thing. That's probably the main thing that takes alfalfa out, are soil diseases, but that's part of the agriculture, part of the growing the forage.
So what time of the year there in Kentucky are you guys ideally planting alfalfa?
The ideal time would be early spring, March. As soon as we get enough warm, dry weather in March here in Kentucky. The second best time would be mid-August to mid-September.
Right now.
So that's about on par with clover and a lot of food plot, I would assume, in different parts of the country.
Of those two windows, which one do you prefer?
Around here, spring.
Yeah, because I would say for the difference in that, clover by far would be safer in the fall.
In the fall.
Yeah.
The worst thing about alfalfa planting in the fall, alfalfa has a crown.
Yeah.
And it doesn't develop that crown until, it starts developing as soon as it comes up as a seedling, but it pulls that growing point, auxiliary buds, lower auxiliary buds, it pulls them below ground to form the actual crown. And it doesn't do that until several weeks after it germinates. So you want to make sure you give it enough time to pull that crown below the ground before winter, cold weather, 26, 24 degree weather hits, or you'll lose some of your alfalfa due to cold weather. So
yeah, I'd always heard 6 weeks before frost.
Okay.
right,
So
depending on the growing season, depending on the moisture, it's typically we say give it at least 6 weeks. So that's why we say get it in the ground by September 15th around here.
Hey guys, listen up. Let me tell you about an awesome deal Springfield Armory is offering now through the end of 2024. When you purchase a brand new model 2020 Waypoint or Redline rifle, you'll receive a model 2020 Rimfire rifle with a black synthetic stock absolutely free. That's an over $400 value on the house. You know we love Springfield Armory and their top-notch products you'd be proud to hand down to your kids and grandkids. So why wait? Learn more about this incredible offer at GearUp2024.com. Springfield Armory. Defend your legacy. Way up north, I know I'm relating this with clover, but way up north, we usually tell folks that, frost seeding or spring is the best time. In the middle of the states, like Kentucky-ish, you can do either spring or fall. And then in the South, we typically only plant in the fall. Would you say that is roughly the same for alfalfa?
Yes. I'd say that's yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good to know.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember, of course, he's the model, but Glenn
Garner.
Yeah, Glenn Garner.
He's been, 10, 15 years ago, just, oh my gosh, the most gorgeous alfalfa you've ever seen on any cattle farm in Montana or whatever. And he had specific varieties that were developed for the South that he grew, and it was incredible.
Yeah, UGA did a lot of alfalfa work. I'm not sure if they still do or not.
Isn't there one from Auburn?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's some from Auburn, too.
Okay, excellent.
There's one now, because I think one of the varieties is called Bulldog. He knows more about it. I'm speculating, but I just remember there were Southern developed varieties that if you're a Glenn Garner and you're great at agriculture, you can grow. He's got a green thumb, grow anything. That I'm telling you, probably some of the prettiest, most impressive deer forage I've ever seen was some Southern alfalfa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, a lot of us gamekeepers, we love a challenge.
Yes.
I kind of tend to want to do that with trees, being a tree nerd. I always want to grow something that's a little bit of a challenge, maybe with cold hardiness or whatever. But I think a lot of us want that challenge with alfalfa too. It's, you have to lime it deeper like you're talking about, but a lot of us like doing all that work and, the Queen of Forages. That's pretty appetizing sounding.
You could clip it off as well too. I mean, in the farming world, every 4 weeks, 5 weeks, it's being cut for hay, and that needs to happen if you have it out there as a food plot as well. It needs to be mowed off. If it's not mowed off, it just matures, goes to seed, and you don't get that new vegetative growth quite as well, and eventually the crown just starts dying out. You want to get new growth, new stems, and the way you do that through the crown is mowing it off. So don't need to mow it off before too early, or you will kill the new growth. But when it starts to bloom, it needs to be mowed.
Sounds like it would be ideal for some of our issues of too high deer density.
Yeah, that's exactly
the
what I
deer
was
will be
thinking.
mowing it for you. You will never have to.
Yeah.
The harder it's grazed, it probably responds better from heavy grazing, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no. It's got to have that rest period.
Okay.
So if I'm a deer and I know there's an alfalfa field there, and I come in there and I graze, browse through it tonight, and I come back tomorrow night and graze another area, but probably in 4 or 5 days, I'm going to go back to the first area I grazed, because all of a sudden I got little 4-inch stems there that are taste a lot better, a lot more, they're tender. And that's what happens is they tend to graze certain areas, and they don't allow that alfalfa or whatever forage it is to have that rest period to regenerate.
Right.
So, but the good thing about alfalfa, it's high yielding. So it's growing everywhere. And typically what I hear from guys that put out food plots, they say, well, I don't see my deer grazing my alfalfa. Well, if they got a clover field, it's easy to see, because clover, you put up 1 or 2 leaves and you walk out there and all you see is stems, the leaves are gone. You can tell deer grazed it. Alfalfa is just full of leaves, and it's harder to see where deer have been grazing, but the deer graze it. The deer like the alfalfa.
So can you explain that dormancy thing just a little bit where I can understand it? You said there's a number associated with it. So as a guy planting a food plot, would you want yours to have to go dormant later when's ideal?
Yeah, well, around here, if we're planting it for farming, we try to go with the dormancy rating around 4 or 5, something like that. That way it'll come out early enough in the spring that it'll give us plenty of growing season or growth during the season to get 4 or 5 cuttings of hay off of it. Well, if I plant and something with a fall dormancy rating of 2 here, then that means it's going to come out later in the spring, and it's going to go dormant earlier. As soon as cold weather hits, it's going to start going dormant. So if I'm in the South, especially if I'm in the South, then I want a higher dormancy rating, because I want that stuff to be green, especially during early bow season. And so the deer really hit the alfalfa really hard around here during the early bow season. So that's a good area to try to hang out to get a deer.
For folks that aren't familiar with that fall dormancy rating, it's a scale of 1 to 11, and 1 having the least amount of fall growth and 11 being the greatest amount of fall growth.
Good stuff.
So, Andy, are there herbicide-resistant varieties?
Yeah, there's Roundup Ready alfalfa, yes. And if I was going to plant, definitely for a food plot, I would get a Roundup Ready resistant variety, just so I could control the weeds, especially dock and some of those things that are really hard on alfalfa.
Yes.
What's a good companion crops that grow well with it?
Oats. A lot of people put oats in it, and that is an outstanding companion crop for wildlife. Really, there's no other kind of grasses I would recommend, but you could come in there with chicory or something like that. With alfalfa for wildlife, because chicory is, it's a real high nutritious crop.
Mm-hmm.
What rate are y'all planting this per acre?
20 pounds per acre is what we recommend.
So this would be a spring forage, high protein forage that would go through early fall, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think right up to about a frost. Is that what you're?
Yeah, it's 24 degrees around here. A couple hours of 24-degree weather kind of shuts it down. But then once it shuts down, I mean, it's still standing there. It'll stand there until we get some really, really hard rains, and so it's still good forage until it's beat down in the ground. But now, if you're a good manager and you want your stand to last after it turns brown, then the ideal thing would be try to remove it all off the ground. Try to go in there, cut it, and remove it, because the leaves, the stems, those are the things that harbor diseases, which eventually take your stand down.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear about bugs and stuff being in alfalfa.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you're fixing to go, Dudley?
No, I was brainstorming about, if you're cutting it down to the ground during that dormant period, would you be able to like overseed it with a cereal grain, like you said, oats or wheat, to give the deer something to eat in the winter? Or would you just reserve a different part of the field or a different field altogether for that?
You could overseed it. Alfalfa does put out a toxicity
Mm-hmm.
that will not allow new seedling alfalfa to grow. I don't know what effect it has on other companion crops with interseeding. I know it doesn't hurt grass, because you can go in there and interseed certain grasses with it. So oats. So yeah, I would say that would be a good practice. Now, if you went in there and pulled a no-till drill or something like that over the top of it, the biggest concern would be cutting crowns and hurting your stand a little bit that way. But still, it may be worth the risk to provide some more winter feed for your deer, turkey, whatever.
So it seems like it's got a fairly at least further north, does it kind of mirrors the clover, perennial white clover's life cycle?
Yes.
It slows down tremendously when it starts getting super cold. But it does sound like alfalfa may have an edge in the, with its deeper taproot. It may have an edge in the heat of the summer, when your typical white clovers can go dormant.
Definitely summertime. I mean, it's a very drought tolerant forage, and that's another big plus.
That really is. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean,
what about the heat tolerance? Yeah. I guess it gets 100 degrees in Minnesota too. Yeah. So
yeah, it's somewhat we consider alfalfa a cool season lagoon, but it can stand the heat.
See these people? When the clock strikes 5, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. They have to do these things. They have to do those things. Enter the all-new LS Tractor MT2 and MT2E, a relentless force of innovation. Redesigned with a new hood and cab built for comfort and visibility, with enhanced lifting capacity to get the job done. Making these people the ones everyone else calls those people. Visit your local LS Tractor dealer today.
Moultrie has pioneered the game management category. Today, Moultrie is one of the best-selling brands of feeders and seeders in the world, and they continue to innovate with new technology that gamekeepers will rely on. Moultrie products are always field-tested and designed for hunters by hunters, combining forward-thinking innovation with time-tested practicality. Moultrie, first in feeders since 1979. All right, so guys, Moultrie is offering our listeners a 15% site-wide discount at MoultrieFeeders.com. Use code Mossy Oak with a capital M, Mossy Oak, at MoultrieFeeders.com and get that 15% discount. So, Andy, if alfalfa is the queen of forages, what is the king of forages in your opinion?
I don't know. I haven't really seen that.
Well, I mean, it's got to be something.
Yeah, you'd think there would.
I was expecting you to say clover. Is what I was expecting.
No. One thing about alfalfa is the nutrition value, and we're always trying to feed wildlife especially deer, for the antlers. And we all know nutrition is a big plus there. And I mean, you take alfalfa in a vegetative state. I mean, you're talking 30% protein. And it's tough to put anything out there that's going to beat that right there.
No doubt about it.
Toxie, have you had any experience growing alfalfa?
Not good ones. Nope.
I
established some one time, and it lasted the first year, and that was it.
I know there's some experimenting going on at Mississippi State's North Farm. There's a couple patches of alfalfa out there, yeah, that Bulldog is, I know it's a UGA variety. It's called Bulldog, and they've got several. And then, but it's interesting when you read about it, there's so, like he was saying earlier, there's so many different selections or varieties. It kind of seems to follow a latitude map, with almost like we group soybeans, but it's almost even more intricate. And that you can get the perfect variety for your area or latitude.
Yeah, help me understand why we wouldn't just want a higher dormancy rating, period, because that means you're going to last into the winter longer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, however, if I plant a dormancy rating number 9 alfalfa here, then it's going to try to stay dormant longer, and I'll probably get more winter kill. Right. And they'll probably try to break dormancy earlier, and I'll get more winter kill in the spring.
I got you.
What are I hear people here in the South that are trying to grow alfalfa, and they're not necessarily farmers with all the ag equipment necessary, but I hear them talk about having insect issues. And there's one side of me that thinks, well, that might be a good thing for my turkeys and poults and whatnot. But I guess what insect issues would they be having?
Number one is alfalfa weevil, and it's right off the bat in the spring. Once we get so many degree days, and degree days are figured on so many hours of temperature, but alfalfa weevil become active, and they can destroy your alfalfa, but definitely destroy that first cutting when we're thinking of alfalfa for hay around here. So it's not as big an issue as it used to be because parasitoid wasps are out there in big numbers. And around here, about 1 out of every 3 years, a farmer has to spray for alfalfa weevils. But every year we'll get some damage from them. So, I mean, yeah, that's a great food source for poults if they're hatching early enough.
So if you all of a sudden let's just say you're in North Alabama and you decide to do one of these alfalfa food plots, you carve out 2 acres. Is the alfalfa weevil, if alfalfa has never been planted on that
Question
farm,
I had too.
is that weevil going to be there?
Well, no. I mean, you're probably going to be safe for several years, maybe forever. I don't know, but yeah, it's you're not going to. There has to be multiple alfalfa fields around for the alfalfa weevil to be in an area.
I bet our good old armyworms will get it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Armyworms love it.
Yep.
Another insect you'll have trouble with is the further south you go are potato leafhoppers.
Yep.
They have a sucking mouth part, and so they like to suck on the alfalfa, and next thing you know, you have yellow alfalfa, and it will wipe out, especially a new seedling, your new alfalfa field, it'll wipe them out. So we have to spray about once every 3 or 4 years for potato leafhoppers around here as well.
Wow.
I bet the leafhopper would be a good insect for a turkey poult too.
Yeah. I'm thinking economics here. So say I'm a landowner and I don't know, I'm trying to turn my property into somewhat of a deer camp, and I need a way to bankroll it. So it, in my mind, it makes sense to try some alfalfa. One of the guys in the camp may have some hay equipment, or you may have somebody that wants to manage it, and they get the hay. Maybe you could trade for the hay or whatever. But I know folks cut it for hay, and it makes some of the highest quality hay in the world. So it would make sense that, if you were doing this on your land and you had enough area to put it to scale, that, it could be like a double crop in here. You're growing your deer for your hunting camp or whatever, but you're also able to pay for some other expenses by selling the hay.
Look, I mean, that's one way to look at it. Now, one thing, when you said that, it popped up in my head. Another management problem, good or bad, with alfalfa is it needs at least 6-week rest period going into the winter months as well. So another problem we have with uneducated growers around here is, hey, alfalfa's starting to bloom October 30th, so I'm going to go in here, or October 20th, I'm going to go in here and cut my alfalfa. Well, it doesn't have enough time to regrow and get a rest period going into the winter months, so it doesn't store up enough sugars for the energy it needs to come out in the spring. And the next thing you know, they do that 2 or 3 years in a row, and all of a sudden their stand went from beautiful to half or less. So right here we say don't cut it after September 15th, and wait until at least November 1st before it's cut for the last time.
I didn't mean to speak on top of you there, but it really sounds like it's a very finicky crop.
It's finicky, but I mean, it's tough. We grew it on our farm, and we've had some drought years that the alfalfa saved us on the cattle. Instead of cutting it for hay, we say, hey, we got to have it for grazing. So we string electric fence across it and just rotational graze it, and it saved us in the drought years.
I can't really, Laney, can you picture Dudley slinging square bales of hay up?
Yeah, of course I can.
Oh yeah, he's a country boy. It does sound finicky, but it does sound like it would have some real wildlife advantages too. I understand not many people plant in the South, but you were saying that when it hits 24 degrees. Well, I mean, sometimes it won't hit 24 degrees here till
if it does at all.
If it does it all, so it does seems like it might have some legs.
Or there's some lower
use.
maintenance ones. I was going to ask if there's certain varieties that might be lower maintenance for the deer food plot guy.
Foothold is saying it's a long-lived, deep crown one.
Yep.
Know if they've developed anything like that or not for sure. Like I say, I can only speak from the agriculture world of farming, and I'm not sure on those type of varieties. All the varieties I'm familiar with they're grown for yield, or they're grown for their abilities to take some grazing pressure.
The soil type seems to me would be tricky. I know that you said that about the pH. Obviously, we got plenty of 7.0 and above even soils down here, but we're in the Black Belt, the famous Black Belt from other side of Montgomery to almost Tennessee, and we have a lot of jet black prairie clay, heavy clays.
Yeah.
And I wonder how it does, because I mean, I always just assume, fertile sandy loam with alfalfa, but will it grow in a variety of soil types?
Growing a variety of soil types, but it likes well-drained soil.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. Yep.
So that's the problem in some of this clay, shallow soil.
Right.
It can't. Diseases love the roots. Got a heck of a root system, and diseases love it.
Right.
And so if there's much moisture there, that's the number one environment for most diseases: moisture.
The Furminator is the industry's most versatile piece of food plot equipment, allowing plotters to do every step of the process, working the soil, adding seed and soil supplements, and compacting. From start to finish with a single implement. It's hassle-free by design. Set it for the seed size and simply drive the tractor, and the Furminator does the rest. Check it out at thefurminator.com.
Nosler is known for their bullets, and now they're making suppressors. Nosler suppressors are made for hunting. Adding a Nosler suppressor to your rifle will make you a quieter, more accurate, and more effective hunter. Protect your hearing and disturb less game with a Nosler suppressor. The time to hunt quiet is now. Learn more at nosler.com.
Guys, getting that pH right just seems like that's critical to being able to grow.
Yeah,
fuzz is important.
And I think you got to get it pretty deep too. You got to get that good pH pretty deep on it as well.
If you remember Kenny talking about one of his key things to keeping these clover fields going for like 5, 10, 12 years, whatever, some of these crazy ones, he's had some even longer, was always checking your pH and be sure if you had to lime it because the falling pH would take out a perennial clover field too.
Yeah.
I mean, any of these legumes, pH is critical. I mean, even if you're growing soybeans, pH is critical.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the pH is critical for any crop, but some of them just tolerate low pH. I mean, the pH has got to be right so the nutrients can be released for that crop. And alfalfa is one of them. It's got to be just right. I mean, another thing we grow around here is giant watermelons and giant pumpkins. And if you want to talk pH, you get one of those fanatics. They have injectors on those on their crops, and they make sure that pH is exactly 6.8. They're adding sulfuric acid and everything else to bring their pH down. So
wow,
that sounds like even more work.
Yep.
So Andy, where did alfalfa come from?
The history, I think, is it came actually from Iran. I think is where they actually located. Or
that'd be a drought. Yeah, that'd be a drought tolerant development area.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'll say, but it's grown. I think if you read on it, it's grown about in every country in the world now. It's one of the most versatile forages, legumes that we have. we grow, I don't know, close to 400,000 acres here in Kentucky.
Wow.
We like it here, and some of these guys around here have figured out that they can sell it. So it's a good crop.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes me wonder, though, like wherever this started, so let's say he's saying Iran, if I'm pronouncing that right, Iran. But is the pH over there in those ag fields, is it 7, so the alfalfa can just do fantastic? Is it naturally that ideal for them?
We're talking to the wrong guy here. I do not know what the pH in Iran is.
It's the county extension in Kentucky, not Iran.
Yeah, that would be that would be his least likely to visit country right now. I would think.
You know, in a lot of these clovers,
Hey, the only way I'm going to Iran if the Wildcats go over and play basketball.
You will go, though. It sounds like you will go.
oh my goodness, are you a basketball fan? I guess
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
everybody in
Is
Kentucky
he breathing?
I think
Right.
is a basketball fan.
I'm saying go Arkansas right now. Go Arkansas.
How about that? They got your coach.
Oh yeah, he's a Calipari fan.
Mhm.
Yeah. So well, one more question: a lot of the clovers that we are using that are available to guys now are from the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so that same question is: are the soils just in really good?
Well, where is most of the
soils are more alkaline in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, but if you think about that temperate climate that represents, and where do most of the clovers in the states, where are they grown and propagated? Oregon, Washington.
Laney, what else we need to be asking him?
Um,
You gonna ask about how the Wildcats look this year in basketball, or what?
I wasn't going to ask that, but I mean, we can hear that.
They're going to always be good.
Yeah, I thought they were always good.
Yep.
I've got a question. How does it handle browse pressure?
Oh, yeah.
Or for like on your farm, I mean, will you plant it like in a 1/4 acre field, or will you put it in a bigger field, or how does it handle the browse?
Bigger. We always have bigger fields of it, so we didn't have to worry about planting alfalfa for any kind of in a food plot area. But it will handle browse pressure, but it's going to be like any other crop. And I'm afraid if you do much fall planting of alfalfa around here as a food plot, that's where you're going to be hurting. Deer are probably going to come in there and graze it as a seedling. Browse on it may be too much. So you better have a large enough plot. As a matter of fact, it's recommended. I was reading something somewhere on wildlife food plots. Alfalfa should be grown in bigger plots because of that pressure as a seedling. But once it gets established, I don't think the deer can keep up with it unless you've got tons and tons of deer.
It sounds like it's a great candidate for a Gallagher electric fence to me.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, around here, if we try to grow rape or something like that in a smaller food plot, it'll never survive if you have much of a deer population.
What do you consider a big food plot? Are you saying 3 acres maybe and above, or larger than that?
No, I would say you need to be looking at probably close to 3 acres. I mean, you can try a smaller, of course, but I just think of alfalfa as a very expensive food plot, seed wise, fertility wise, and so if I'm going to go to that kind of expense, I want to try to make sure it survives.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Well, I mean, where's that 3 acres? I mean, some of our stuff, it could be 10 acres and there'd still be too much browse pressure. But then is it out away from the, where there's a high deer density or not,
Yeah, I picture alfalfa being in my big central field if I have one,
I mean, Dudley's point's a great one. It could be well worth all that investment.
Yeah.
If it was centrally located in your place, kind of in the middle, and it was big enough to really do a lot of good to larger acreage, and you could keep that going for years and years and years after a pretty heavy initial investment. It might be the smartest thing you did. For me, I've tried to do that with clovers to date.
Mm-hmm. And but I mean, back to my economic point, you could have just say you had a 15-acre field in the middle of your place, or a 20-acre field, or heck, even a 40. You could have an alfalfa, hay grower spend all the money and everything, and you just benefit from the deer getting to eat it.
Right.
And you may not even have to lay a finger on it. Make sure they're keeping the fertility up and all that, because it's your dirt. But
yeah, especially have someone watch it for you
that could be
when you couldn't be there all the time.
Exactly.
That guy would be doing it for you.
Just getting a free food plot out of the deal.
Yeah.
So it does make a lot of sense.
Think about too, if you had a smaller plot and you did want to try it, if you possibly plant that in spring, then I don't think you're going to get near the pressure on that.
Right.
Springtime, you get a lot of leaves and honeysuckle and all that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Wow.
That's by far the best time of year to plant sensitive stuff, because there's so much to eat right when it first bud out.
Well, Andy, you got any questions for us? We've been asking you a bunch of questions.
No, I don't guess. I mean, I enjoy what little bit of podcast I get to listen to. When you sent that link, I did listen to the crow hunting one, brought back some old memories when I was a child. We went out and did some crow hunting, and I mean, I was following right along. I knew exactly what he was talking about and all that kind of stuff. Of course, we used a cassette tape and an old cassette player.
Yeah. Well, Kentucky's a fantastic hunting state, though.
No doubt
they
about
kill
it.
some big deer
Monster
and velvet.
deer.
What
Great turkey hunting.
Dave and
elk.
Harold used to not want to talk about it.
Right.
They lived from there, and they'd been all over the Midwest, and they called it BKS. That stood for Best Kept Secret.
Yeah, it is.
When I was growing up, if we found a deer track, that's where we hunted. That the deer population was so low, and if you saw a deer at a distance, didn't matter if it had horns or not.
Right.
You had a successful season. But now on our farm, I want to run them off. I can't. I like to put out a dove field every year and do some dove hunting, and they just demolish my sunflowers. So
Oh yeah, they're hard on something.
they love.
Yeah, electric fence.
That's right. I
Gallagher in the house.
first time I've ever, and I've gotten so frustrated I couldn't grow anything for doves. Finally, Gallagher solved my problem, and we got a beautiful sunflower field this year.
And deer don't like that
They
electricity.
do not like it, neither do hogs.
Neither do Dudleys.
And speaking of that, Dudley, I don't think hogs will be kind to alfalfa
I
either.
set the barrel of my 870 on an electric wire one time, not thinking.
Oops.
And man,
It'll light you up.
it lit me up.
Yep.
That's
How
what
about
happened, huh?
Yeah, that's what's wrong with me.
All right, guys, looking around back, usually you have at least one more question. You got anything in your mind there?
Yeah, I mean, I know alfalfa has some benefits, like medicinally, or claims to have. Is there any benefits like for wildlife? I know for your horses and your cows, it's looked at as a premium feed. But do you know any specific to whitetails or turkeys or anything like that?
Not that I know of. That tannin levels might get up in that mature alfalfa like it does in a lot of forages, and that might be a natural dewormer or something like that. But I'm not real familiar with anything like that.
I read that too. That it does that in cattle. That's a good catch, Mike. Well, Andy Mills, look, Golly, you sound like an interesting guy. We look forward to coming up there and going turkey hunting with you this parade.
Hey, y'all, if y'all come up this way and give me a call, I might answer during turkey season.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, we've enjoyed it. I think we've all learned a little something about alfalfa because we had some questions and there's some things we didn't know. I was giving your name as the guy to call in the state of Kentucky. So.
Yeah, I heard that. I tracked that down. It went by word of mouth from state specialist to my brother and to me. So I gave my brother heck. He should have been the one on here. He's a big bear man.
Maybe he's the king of forages.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he's king of forages. All right.
Yeah.
He thinks of nothing but dog training now. So I don't know if he can get on here and talk about anything unless it's dog training.
Well, that's a good thing to talk about. We're real interested in forages, so we'll get to dog training a little bit later on. But so Andy, we appreciate you being on. We're gonna send you, courtesy of Toxa. He's got a real closet that I've figured out.
Unbelievable.
The code to get back in. We're gonna send you a companion's shirt here.
Oh right.
Get there in the
All
next
right.
few weeks, and you can use it to replace that real gaudy looking thing you got on right now.
In the spirit of transparency, I haven't actually been able to. I hadn't been in my closet in almost 3 years now. Because they changed the code and won't give it to me, so I don't even know what's in there. So I hope you can trust them.
All right, Andy.
Well, I'll take it, whatever.
Yep, we'll get that to you. Andy, we appreciate you being on.
Thank you very much.
I hope you have a good hunting season.
I enjoyed it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys. Well, I tell you that, I keep coming back to getting that pH right. That just seems so important. And Dudley made the point about it being so deep. I've never thought about it that way because mostly you think about that root zone.
Yeah, and soil type. He answered my, why I might have some failures here.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
The well-drained
like heavy
part,
soil.
yeah.
Needs to be well drained. So
We do have this alfalfa additive that guys can add to. If you were planting some wheat or something, you can
Right,
add to.
yeah.
It's a great thing to do, and we've had it a long time and have had lots of people.
I tell you what, a lot of
Keep
people
coming
order it.
back.
I've never planted it. I'm gonna try it out. Oh, look at there.
There you go. Lanny is turning into the little farmer.
The
here.
little tester. That's
Yeah,
right.
There we go. We have a winner for the LS tractor.
We sure do.
Whoa.
We're not going to announce his name today, but in the very near future, he's going to be coming here, and we'll do a little production where he's.
Can I borrow that thing one more time before he gets here?
You know what?
No,
it's
no.
at the shop being polished up. They're putting a little.
They're fixing all of Richie's dents.
They're all of Richie's dents.
All right.
And we're actually going to get Richie to sign them.
All right.
Wouldn't that be?
Well, I like how y'all give me the mic back now to kind of defend myself here.
Oh me. Well, I'm really, that little the LS is. They make just a nice tractor.
No,
They've
great,
been real pleased.
great tractor.
All right, guys. So if that's it, we'll let everybody get back to work. Everybody's got a lot to do, a lot of emails to answer. It's time to be planting food plots in the Deep South.
No doubt about
If
it.
you got questions, holler at us. All right, looking around the room, why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.